Well, I am so excited to have just finally met you in person and to get excited about hearing this story. I want to welcome today Nicole Zar-NOM-ski. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Fantastic.
Great.
So I appreciate you having you out. We've been on Facebook friends. We have a lot of mutual friends and a lot of commonalities. And I love that people can build these relationships on Facebook. Is that pretty common for you to do these days?
I think more so now I'm getting those connections, and I think it's just through mentoring other women with breast cancer and being a writer. I've been an avid writer in the Rochester community since 2011.
Yeah.
So I've started making a lot more connections that way, and it's really nice to to kind of be in person with you.
Yes.
Because I see a lot of stuff on Facebook too. So
I love it. I love that you can, really grow. I think some people, have traditionally looked at social media in certain ways that aren't always the best light, and certainly it's been used for that. But I've always seen it as a relationship tool.
Absolutely.
And, I'm like, I don't get out of the house much, especially nowadays, so it's been a great way to stay connected and to continue to build those relationships. So I love that. So tell me a little bit about yourself. So you came from elsewhere. You're not from here originally, but have been in the Minnesota area for a while now.
Yes, I am originally from Missouri, small town girl. I grew up in a town of about 3,500.
Wow.
At that time, I kind of had a little boost from my mom. Hey, why don't you get out and explore and see the world? Because I never did that.
Sure.
So I thought, I'm a city girl and I'm going to move across the country and do whatever I want. And I lived in Dallas and Denver and Boston and St. Louis.
Oh,
and
wow.
guess what? I'm a country girl. So I live in St. Charles now. I came to Minnesota in 2009 with my husband. He's originally from Winona. We met in Missouri and then moved up here together. So, and gosh, 11 years later, we love it here.
Yes.
I've got such a network of friends. Minnesotans are some of the nicest people I've come across.
Yes,
so.
That's great.
Yeah.
So what was your background? So you went to all these places. What were you doing? Were you writing there? Were you just cruising around?
Well, I've always been an avid journaler. I've kind of kept all my writing in the closet, so to speak. I did a lot of things. I was in product development and fashion design.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I worked for Goldbug out in Colorado, and that was a toy company, and I designed doll clothing and accessories.
Fun.
Then went on and did athletic apparel. I was all over the place, could not figure out what it is that I wanted to do.
That is so cool.
I just didn't feel that reward in what I was doing. Like I wasn't doing anybody a service.
Sure.
And so I went back to school and got my master's degree, and I started teaching. Children are wonderful. They are not for me.
I can 100% agree with that for sure.
We don't have children of our own. My husband and I, we don't have children. We have 2 cats. But I got out of teaching and I got into marketing. And I now work as a marketing director at Shorewood Senior Campus, and I help people, seniors, find assisted living, memory care apartments, independent living apartments. So it's a very rewarding career. My writing career also started here. Ellie Starks, she is now the owner and editor of the Wagazine. She used to be the editor with Jory Johnson, the publisher of Rochester Women, and she gave me my first chance as a writer. So I was published in 2011 in Rochester Women, and I just got I got connections with every editor in town, I think, and I was working quite a bit freelance.
That's awesome.
Full time.
Did you bring something to them, like I want to write, or here's some some ideas, or how does that go?
I had a couple of short stories that I had written on my own, and I submitted them to Ellie. I had no pitch of any kind for a woman's magazine. I just, I'm still friends with her, actually work with her now at Shorewood. She has said she always tries to give new writers an opportunity, and I will always thank her for that.
That is so cool. I love that.
She got all this started for me.
So let's go back to the journaling for a little bit. So I've come across this so many times in different ways, and I have to say I'm never very consistent in my approach because I get bored. What does that look like for you? You know, it's the Dear Diary. Like, is it do you have a process? Like, what does that look like? Because that kind of comes full circle later, right?
Yes, it does. Journaling it doesn't have to be that show up at the page for 30, 40 minutes every single day and make sure you're getting 1,000 words on the page. There are so many ways to journal, from keeping a bullet journal, which is essentially a bullet pointed
art book.
Yeah. You can do sketches and doodles. There's challenge journals. There's goal journals. There's gratitude journals. There's journaling for anxiety, journaling for manifest. There's so many ways to do things.
Sure.
And that's what I love about it, because I'm kind of all over the place sometimes. So I don't always want to sit and write. I am so grateful that I woke up this morning so that I can live this day. Sometimes I have specific goals. I need to see them on paper, so I write them out. I write how I'm going to get there. You know, kind of those stepping stone goals to get to the next goals. I have gone through Julia Cameron. I read, way back in early 2000s, I think. Julia Cameron wrote The Artist's Way.
Okay.
3 pages of longhand every single morning.
Ooh.
Yes. And I did that for a decade.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
That's amazing.
I have so many journals.
I'm sure
and I don't
it's so
throw them
cool
away.
To, like, look back though too. I mean, I feel like the process that I like about it is getting things out of your head, because, you know, it's a storm up there in my head sometimes, and, you know, starting to be intentional about pulling some of that out.
Absolutely.
Do you ever go back and do you see patterns or things that you didn't see when you originally wrote them down?
I don't like to go back and read them.
No? Interesting.
No, once I get it out, I'm like, okay. Sometimes when I do the goal journals, I'll put a little tag in there to know I need to go back and do that, because now, you know, a day or two later, I need to write the stepping stone goals to get to the goals, or the lifelong goals.
Yep. I've did a 90-day challenge or whatever, and part of it was like writing these goals as if they'd already happened. And then it was really weird, because it kept putting that back into my head, like, are you doing something today to get closer to this goal?
Exactly.
You know, and at first I was like, this sounds so dumb, you know, but the repetition of it, and, you know, I always tell my daughter, what you tell yourself has so much more power than anything else you will ever come across in your life.
Thoughts become things.
Yes.
Choose the good ones.
So true. It's so true. I love that. So where does your journaling take you? Do you still do the same thing every day? You've kind of moved through, like, what changed?
Yeah. You know, I realized that I didn't always want to wake up every morning doing those morning pages, and it was her philosophy, and it's a wonderful philosophy, is just to get all the angst and whatever yuck you have in your head. And after a while, it was like, this is starting to become counterproductive for me, because I feel like I'm now focusing on all that's coming out, and I don't want to focus on that. So I journal differently almost every day. Sometimes it's that gratitude, because I may start just with challenges in life, and especially these days, you can really get caught up in some negative things that are going on. If you listen to the media too much, there's a lot of negative stuff that can really kind of make you spiral.
For sure.
So gratitude journaling is wonderful for that. And it's amazing when you write one thing that you are grateful for, it opens up. You're like, I'm so grateful that I can write today. I have an arm, a functioning arm. I have eyes that can see. I have ears that can, it's just, it opens up.
The intentionality is huge, because what you focus on grows. Right?
Absolutely.
So when you're looking at, you know, the thought process behind the grateful thing, again, it's weird at first, you know, but every habit takes a while to take its own form. But I think, you know, I remember some days it was like, for coffee. Like, I am so grateful for coffee, because without it, I would not get through my day. You know, but it also makes you look for those things, you know, like, not the, like, I'm glad I woke up today. You know, yes, we're grateful for that. But it starts to, you know, like, there was one day I remember I wrote down, like, the rain, like, that replenishes and restores and just start thinking about
Absolutely.
things really differently. And, I'm like, otherwise it could have just been a crappy day outside.
I totally love that you said that, because all of these, I do not like the heat. And I'm sure everyone out there is probably going to be
Define the heat, though. I mean, the humidity is the real killer. The heat is okay.
I was so grateful for the rain when it came down the other day, and I was just so happy it was raining, and
Yes.
everyone around me was like, what?
Right. But we need it. You need, the dark and the light, to really understand how impactful life is.
Absolutely.
So let's talk about kind of some of the things that you've went to that really leads up to kind of your latest achievement that we'll talk about. But where were you at when you got news of this cancer diagnosis, and what did that look like? I mean, you were journaling before that, correct? And then this bombshell comes in. What does that look like?
Yeah, back in 2017, I had a full-time job. I was working a lot. I had freelance jobs every single weekend. I was teaching fitness classes. My life was full. And July 3rd, 2017, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And to say it's a kick in the gut is just an understatement.
Oh, I'm sure.
There really isn't a way to describe how you feel when you're sitting in that office and the doctor says it to you. And there's no easy way for that doctor to even say it.
Gosh, no.
So I sat there and in shock. And the nurse finally, after probably about 5 minutes, they continued to ask me, do you have anyone here with you? I was by myself.
I can't imagine
Yeah.
just walking into that, basically.
I know. And the troubling part of it is that I had a feeling something wasn't right, but I was going to go in there. Oh, well, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I got this.
Yeah.
And the nurse finally put her hand on my back and she said, you can have an emotion if you want. And that's all it took.
Yeah.
I just lost it. I started crying. I couldn't understand why this was happening to me. I was healthy. I ate well. I exercised all
Yes.
the time. And I walked out of that office and my life changed forever.
Yeah.
I called my mother, I called my husband, and they both told me almost the exact same words, we'll get through it together. And we did.
Yeah.
So
Wow.
it took me a couple of days to actually show up at the page. I didn't want to face it.
Right.
So I didn't,
Right.
if I don't write about it, maybe it's not going to happen. Or
Oh, gosh,
maybe I don't have
yeah.
to do anything about
Yeah.
this. I can just kind of go stick my head in the sand or something.
I think it's a logical process. Like, reactions take a little while.
Yeah.
I mean, to kind of get in there and address that.
Yes.
So how did you start once you decided, okay, I can put some of this out there?
It was almost it was a necessity. I was getting bombarded with questions. What do you want to do? Do you want to have a lumpectomy? Do you want to have a bilateral mastectomy? Do you want to have reconstruction? Do you want implants? Do you want a fat graft? And
That's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't even know what all this means.
Right.
So I had to talk through with doctors. I met through this journey early on. They're called pink ribbon mentors.
Yes, I was reading about that.
Yeah. And so I immediately contacted, I guess the head person of the Pink Ribbon Mentors, and they connect you with someone who has a similar diagnosis.
Okay.
So I have had invasive ductal carcinoma, Nottingham grade 2. It was in the right side, 2 tumors, and eventually they found out it spread to the lymph nodes, which takes it up to a stage 3.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
not
Scary.
great.
It's very scary, yeah.
Very real. So I started asking a bunch of questions, and she was super helpful because she was able to say, okay, a lumpectomy.
Sure.
Yep, you can keep your breasts if you want, but you also have that
risks.
Yeah, that fear of, is it going to come back?
Right.
And to me, it was one and done. I'm not doing this again.
Yeah.
So it was almost a really easy choice for me to say, take them.
Yeah.
I don't want this. And then there were some decisions that were made for me because I, at the time, didn't have enough fat to graft to create breasts, so I had to go with the implants,
Yeah.
which is fine, and I'm fine with that now.
Right.
It was a good decision.
Those are a lot of decisions to go through. So the person, were they like in remission? They were past that now, right? Okay.
Yes. So each of the pink ribbon mentors, I believe it has to be a year out from their last treatment, and they have to be able to. They go through an orientation process. They are they have to get a letter of recommendation from their oncologist. So there are people that want to do it, and there are people that have kind of passed the test, so to speak.
But what a tremendous opportunity. I mean, I think probably therapeutically for them as well, to be able to turn that into something that's productive. And
someone asked me today why I share my story, and because it almost makes it easier to talk about.
Sure.
When you're sharing that story with somebody else, and it's almost like, hey, I know you're going through this. I got you.
Yeah.
I've been through this. Let me help you.
And I think there's something so powerful in like that, your family's there, your family's going to support you, but they just don't get it. It's not the same. You're not in the same club. And one of my really good friends also went through breast cancer, and, it was hard to, figure out how to show up for her. I'm like, I don't understand what that's like, and I think it's so important for people to have those connections for sure.
It definitely is. My family, my friends, they were all wonderful, but they didn't understand everything that I was having to go through, and they never will unless they have breast cancer, and I hope none of them ever do.
Right. And that's just, a matter of fact.
Yes.
So how did the journaling progress like through this? It probably took how long? A year to get through everything?
My treatment process was 9 months. Through that 9 months, I actually was really early on in the journaling phase. I was a friend of mine had started a Caring Bridge site for me, so I started sharing some of my journal entries, and I found that humor was really kind of carrying me. And as I was writing about this in my journal, and my husband, he is a practical joker too, so anytime he can make me laugh, that he's doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
So I found that if I took a more lighthearted approach to this, it's okay. And so I was sharing this with people, and they would all respond and say, my God, this is so funny. How are you laughing about this? And are you okay? And what's happening? And what's going on? And so then it was like, wait a second. There's a story here that needs to be told.
Yeah.
Not just for the people in my life, but for the next...
For someone else that needs to hear it. Yeah, absolutely.
So almost immediately, I started taking those journal entries, and I just started writing a book. It was do a little journaling, and then when I got to the point where I felt like I had a good chunk done, I had to sit down and I wrote it. I was very, very fortunate. At the time, I was working at Shorewood, which is where I'm still working. They were tremendous in giving me the time that I needed to heal.
So you talked about the book thing. Now, you wanted to write a book previously, right?
Yes.
But didn't quite have the topic covered, right?
So that's absolutely true. Having written for so many different publications, I loved talking to people who were professionals, and they knew their field, and I was so curious, and I wanted to find out more about them. And all of a sudden, I was becoming that person that knew everything about breast cancer or going through breast cancer.
Sure.
So it's like, okay, that is my topic, because I didn't fiction. I love reading fiction. I love to read, but I didn't feel like there was a book in me. I just couldn't ever land on a topic. And once I had this, it was just a no-brainer for me.
Yeah. I like how you say the no-brainer part, because, for some people, like, that took, I think, a lot of courage just to, like, okay, not only am I putting my journal out there for everyone to see, but then taking on writing this book as, you know, an expert in the subject matter of something that you would never want to be in.
Yeah.
But like, what did that thought process look like for you? I mean, was it hard to, you know, put it in there and say, I'm going to put this out there? Or did you feel like it was all meant to be somehow?
Once I started writing, and there's some very intimate parts in there. I did not hold back.
Yeah.
That does not thrill my husband.
But those are the, I think, pieces that people will connect to because, you know, when it's raw and relatable and they can say like, yes, me too, you know?
Yeah,
that's
there was a lot of very personal things in there, and it just felt like people need to know that. People need to know that I still had sex with my husband when I was going through chemotherapy.
Yeah.
When I was bald, I did not have a hair on my body. That it was still okay to be intimate.
Yeah, that's huge. And I think those types of things, you know, are hard. I mean, that's not an easy thing to put out. Like, nobody wants to put that out there voluntarily. But as part of the purpose of what you were writing, you know, I think someone's going to read that, going through that situation.
I think it would have been disingenuous.
Oh, okay, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
For sure.
To not share those things.
I love, like, those different pieces of, you know, when you can look back, you know, I am one that reflects back on things that I've written because it kind of reminds me of like where I've been and kind of how I get through places. It's almost like I like mark down like just pinpoints. I was laughing with my neighbor the other day about, you know, being a very young single mom in a situation that was like I had lost my job the same day I found out I was pregnant. And, you know, it was tragic at the time. It was super hard. I laugh about it now, you know, because I'm like, what else am I going to do with that? It's funny. Like the situation, if you look at trying to explain to my dad, who was a former pastor, what had happened this last week, you know, it was huge. But, you know, parts of those stories have come up in other ways where, you know, you can help people through
absolutely.
I was there too. I swear you'll get through this. I know you will get through this because, you know, I can show you that.
And you find so much strength that you didn't know you had.
Yeah. I agree. And I think telling the story is powerful because it does sort of, I don't know, reinforce what you know to be true, that you're like, okay, I did do this. Because I think people forget a lot. Like you blow it off, you know, like, okay, I survived this, it's done. But there was a whole journey and strength building during that time that is so important.
Yes, absolutely.
I love that. So coming out to the book, so you finish your book.
Yes.
What did that look like, putting that out there?
Oh. So I finished the book. I worked with Allison Rowe. She was one of the editors I worked with at the Post Bulletin. She was my editor for the book.
Okay.
She did a wonderful job. I appreciate that she helped some of the transitions where they were needed and really let my voice come through. She didn't chop. She didn't, you know, take a lot out of it. You know, you kind of worry about that when you're sharing it for the first time with somebody, and
because it's personal for you. So to put that out there and say, okay, just do your thing. It's like that's a lot of trust to put in someone to do that.
Yeah. So I knew I wanted to get the book out. First of all, I had been talking about it on social media, sharing little excerpts here and there from the journal or, you know, what I had written.
Did that help keep you accountable?
Yeah, it kind of did.
Yeah.
And then I would almost have this like, I feel guilty. I haven't been able to write in the book for the last couple of weeks. And it's like, you have cancer. I mean, I was writing this book while I was going through treatments.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And I had some people have to tell me and remind me, it's all right.
Right.
So I knew that once I felt like it was finished, that I wanted to get it out there. I didn't want to wait for a traditional publisher.
Sure.
I had no idea how long that would take. I have heard stories of people submitting books year after year after year after year.
I can't imagine.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to self-publish this and put it on Amazon. So I met with a woman in Wisconsin. She formatted it for Kindle. I call her my Kindleizer. And so it was
There's a talent for everything.
I know. I had a book cover designer. She did an amazing job. She was up in the cities. And so I put it all together and launched it in April of 2020, just a couple months ago.
So right among,
I know.
like, well, now that we have nothing else to do, this is a great time to read, right?
Yeah, it was. I really hesitated too, because I'm like, this pandemic is shutting the world down.
Right.
I haven't had a book signing. I haven't had a book launch party. All of the things that I wanted to do, but I wanted the book out there more than I wanted those things.
Yeah.
Those are secondary. It doesn't matter. I wanted the book to be able to start helping people. And another reason, I also became a Pink Ribbon mentor. So I'm mentoring women now. And, you know, it's not something I throw in their face right away. I ask them questions. I talk to them. I get to know them. And then I say, you know, a few conversations down the road, a few weeks, once they've kind of felt comfortable with some of the decisions that they've had to make.
Past the shock phase.
Yes. I say, hey, you know, I have this book. It's on Amazon. If you're interested, you know, it's a telltale, and you'll learn a lot from it. So
that's huge. So now you've taken that and sort of started layering up a little bit. How are all these things coming together? I mean, at any point, are you thinking like, I can't do this, or I don't know how to do this, or maybe I've done enough? Like, what goes on behind the scenes as you move through these things? Because I think a lot of people assume that people are experts in this, they know how to do it, or it just comes easy to them.
Such a great question. No, I know nothing. It's been tough, but as we were talking earlier about journaling, what you think about, that's what you're going to manifest.
Yeah, absolutely.
So at any time when I start feeling like, I don't know how else to market this, I don't know how else to get the book out there, I don't know how else to spread the word, I stop. I'm not supposed to ask how this is going to happen. I'm just supposed to ask for this. Yeah. And connections happen. I am so grateful that I was connected with you.
Yeah.
I mean, this is wonderful, and I'm extremely grateful to be talking to you today about this. So little things like that start happening, but if you let that talk track be negative, that's what you're gonna get.
That's so true. I had someone that we were conversing, so I had put out something about anxiety the other day, and I'm very avid about helping people move through those things, and somebody had commented back just with their struggles of depression. They said, I wish I could be positive like you. And I said, you know what? Let me be very clear and candid that a lot of the times when I put things out there, it's because I need to hear it.
Yes.
I need to see it. I need to move through that. And
that's such a great point.
I'm like, I don't feel like this. I feel a lot of negative things and tell myself a lot of negative things. So I've trained myself enough to combat it with a truth, as I call it. And I think that we forget, sometimes we need that for ourselves, know, and we struggle just as much, but people, you don't have to put out their positivity all the time. But sometimes that helps people when they're like, they call those, I can't remember how they had positioned it, but people that are always positive. I'm like, it's not that nothing bad ever happens or you never feel negatively about something. I mean, I'm sure in this cancer journey, you've been angry and upset.
Yes.
And a whole thing of emotions, right?
I called them my pity parties.
Yeah.
I was allowed to have those pity parties.
Absolutely.
But not long.
Right. Don't take up residency there. Yeah.
No, I had to flip the switch really quick.
Yeah. And that's hard.
It was Lady Gaga. She helped me.
She can always get the party going in the other way, not the pity party, but the other way.
Yeah.
I love that.
For sure. No, it's true. The title of my book is How Cancer Cured My Broken Soul. And my broken soul, I wasn't broken because cancer. I was broken before that.
Yeah, that's interesting. I was curious about that.
Because of the negative talk track. For years and years and years, we talked about my career. I jumped from job to job to job. Do you know why? Because I didn't feel good enough for any of them.
Right. Interesting.
Yeah, I taught fitness classes. Do you know how hard it is to stand up in front of a group of women that are all beautiful and lovely, and they make my heart so happy, and I'm looking at myself in the mirror going, "Ooh, I feel the jiggle. That's so gross. Oh God."
It's so interesting because I've also taught fitness classes too, and it's like, I think people automatically assume all the time that you don't have those problems.
Right.
You don't think those things or say those things. You're like, oh my gosh, if only you were in my head.
Yeah.
Sometimes you do those so that you can try to combat those, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like that was a lot of the fitness track for me.
And cancer helped me realize that my friends don't see the jiggle. They don't see me standing in front of them with fat moving around. They don't, I'm a very loved person. People are all around. It just, I had so much support. I've always known my family's been there. They're wonderful.
But you really see it show up.
A group of your family members that are my mom and dad driving from Missouri to spend the first 2 weeks with me after my surgery so my husband could go to work and support us and I could just heal.
Yeah, that's amazing.
My fitness friends that were coming over, bringing meals, just checking in with me, doing whatever they needed to do to help out my family and I. They were there. So
what was like something that kept you going through? Like, I mean, those are the hard times. Like, there's the period of time that you don't really know how this is going to work out. There's the period of, okay, we have a plan. I think everything's going to be okay. Like, what keeps you going through those? What did you have to tell yourself to move past those fears?
Yeah. Do you know, I turned to a lot of positive affirmations. Yes, I'm a Pinterest junkie, and I go there all the time to find positive affirmations. And I love fitness. I love to exercise. When I could, and most of the time, almost every day, I would go out for a walk. I was an avid runner before then. I'm not doing that now, but I would go out for walks, and that's what I would pump through my head. It was almost like this. That runner's high that everyone talks about? It was almost like these positive affirmations were my runner's high.
Sure.
And that's what I was just pumping through my head. Yeah. And I learned how to do yoga. I started doing that. Very, very easy 10-minute YouTube yoga videos.
Yeah. Not the crazy funky moves, but the application of the practice is huge.
The breathing techniques, meditation, those are all things that I learned that really started getting me through it and thinking, oh my gosh, I've got this. Yeah. The writing was cathartic, the exercise was cathartic, and the people around me just carried me.
Yeah, for sure. And it's so important to address how the mind works, because you got to condition your mind.
Yes, you do.
I just like you do as a runner, as a fitness person in general. Like, your brain probably takes 3 times as much work, but I mean, when you let it go do its own thing, it will drive you places you don't want to go.
Yes.
So I think that's huge to make sure to stay on top of that. What else kind of came out of the journal? So now you've looked at, how do I cultivate these groups and these other things? Like, what is that manifested into just outside of that book now?
Sure. So I started an online journaling group just about 2 months ago, I think. I also, at the same time my book was published, I published a guided journal.
Okay.
Not necessarily for breast cancer patients, for anybody. There's 4 categories. It's manifesting gratitude, anxiety, and kind of self-discovery type thing. And each of those categories, there's 10 prompts in the journal, so you can follow along in that.
That's great.
So I launched that at the same time, and then started an online journaling group. So I put in different prompts every day. Sometimes it's an affirmation, sometimes it's a quote that's inspiring, and I'll ask a question that kind of coincides with that quote. I also, in reading, I've started reading more about journaling.
Sure, yeah.
And there was, and I'm just such a goal person too, so this was so exciting for me. There was 10 categories, from your family and friend relationships to your marriage to your career to personal development, financial. There was 10 of them. Okay. And in each of those, you set goals for that. And it was just like, oh my gosh, this is so exciting.
I can get on board with this.
I know. And now I want like-minded people to be able to come to it's a private group, so it's a safe place.
Yeah.
And I want people to be able to learn and grow and heal and share.
Yeah.
You know,
so many different approaches to doing things too. I think that's so great.
And that's kind of one of the things that I want to roll out in this group next is another 10 ways to journal. You know, I've had so many of my friends, oh, I'm not a writer. I can't write. I don't do words. And it's like, it doesn't have to be that hard.
Right.
You know, there's actually one journaling technique where it's you sum up your day in one sentence.
Interesting.
So,
ooh, that'd be kind of hard.
Yeah, I know.
I could think of a lot of choice words sometimes for my days. I think there's a lot to be said about that. I have a Start Your Way or something like that. I can't think of what the title is right now, but it's a self-discovery journal. And, you know, the thing I was having problems with was always the repetitive nature, you know, or not having something to focus on. Like my brain's just like, okay, I don't know where to start. But it asks random things like, you know, what was this childhood thing like for you? Or, you know, how would you define happiness? Or, you know, just things like that. You're like, never really thought about that. But having something to work off of, I think, is a big hurdle for a lot of people that are considering journaling but don't want to start that.
That's why I like putting some sort of prompt out for people because, that blank page can be terrifying.
Right.
For some people.
Absolutely agree. I think that's so hard. And, you know, people of all types, you know, whether you're a super structured person or whatever, I have a friend that does a bullet journal and it didn't work well for me to schedule things like as a planner that way. Yeah. Like that got me a little crazy because I'm really rigid. Like, oh my gosh, my squares aren't right and they're not even. and then I, you know, have to go back and change something. But what I did see, we had a journaling party, this bullet journal party, and everyone just brought some stuff and everyone did it differently.
I love that.
And it just opened up the doors like, okay, so I don't have to like have this whole structure all mapped out and all of these things. It really just like created a whole new space, and how people used it was so different.
Sure.
So I think it's great to have, you know, an online community where you can share because everyone does things differently.
Yes, absolutely.
And it can open so many doors to be able to do that.
There was a class, it was 2-day class in North Carolina at Duke Integrative Medicine that I was supposed to go to at the end of April until COVID hit. And it was leading others in writing to heal.
Interesting. That sounds great.
So that's kind of, hopefully down the road,
the next phase.
Announce it, you know, another class.
Yeah.
I was so excited for this class. I actually even sent them a message and I was like, can you just do a Zoom with me?
Yeah.
I've already paid for it. You can keep my money.
Yeah, exactly.
But
that's so great.
They declined.
So what would be like your advice to somebody who's feeling stuck or not sure where to start that healing process, or, you know, whether or not they've been through that cancer or not?
I think a guided journal is the best place to start because you do get those prompts. You there's even journals with templates.
Yeah.
So you can follow, you can sketch, you can doodle, you can write, you can list. There's just so many ways of journaling. So, you know,
there's something for everyone. Right?
There absolutely is with journaling. It's not a one size fits all. And I think that a lot of people just get stuck in that, oh, I have to write about my day and what I did and what I ate and this and that. And it's like, no. It doesn't have to be that way. I mean,
like that.
Even if you're an aspiring writer, sit and write a character in your journal. Sit and describe a scene. Go outside. Talk about a tree. Talk about the roots in the ground, the leaves coming out. What, you know, pick something and just describe it.
Yeah. Dig in a little deeper.
Which is super fun.
Yeah. That's awesome. So what would you say would be something that you would put out there as a mantra or a quote or something that really like helps guide you or gets you through those valleys?
You know, I have said this to a couple people, and I actually even bought, I should have wore it tonight. It's a bracelet, and on it says, I am enough.
Oh, that's such a powerful word. I love that.
It's just, it's so true. Right where you are, right here, right now.
Yeah.
I am enough. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
Right. That's amazing. I think that's a struggle for so many people, like just feeling like, even if you're goal minded, if you're not to that next goal yet, then you'll set another one. And then you're constantly like never satisfied.
Yep. It's like you're just checking things off the list. Okay, that goal was reached. Now what?
Yeah. That's so amazing.
Stop and enjoy those. Stop and be grateful.
Yeah.
Talking about like, how am I gonna promote this? What am I gonna have to do next? And I needed to stop and take time and say, I wrote a book.
Yeah.
That was a lifelong goal of mine.
Right.
And I did it. And it's published and it's on Amazon.
Yeah.
So I had to celebrate that.
Yes, absolutely.
And the rest will come.
Yeah. I think you need those reminders out there, because I think, like I said, one of the reflective things that I like is the reminder of, okay, you've been through this valley or this valley, and sometimes I have to just go back and be like, okay, that happened and we got through it. So there is no evidence to prove that I cannot get through this next thing, and I move past them quick too. Like, when we had our house fire and we were out of our house for 4 months, and long story short, it was just constantly dealing with stuff and just, okay, I just got to keep going, keep my kids like sanity, all of that stuff. And people are like, how do you get through it? I'm like, one day at a time.
Yeah.
You change your expectations. Same with COVID. It was like 12 weeks of homeschooling and working at home. It was like,
oh my gosh.
Don't ask me to do that again. Please send them back to school. But, it was one day at a time. You just have to keep showing up every day and making a choice.
Such a great thing to say. Just show up.
Yeah. That's like 9/10 of it, right? When they talk about absent parents.
Yeah.
Like, just show up at the game, even if you're not totally there, like mentally or whatever, you're not there for the whole thing. Like, just showing up means a lot.
It does.
It
absolutely
for sure
does.
I love it. So where can we find the book, the group? What are you putting out there?
Yes. So the book is on Amazon. I have a paperback and an ebook version.
Awesome.
The journal is as well. So the book is How Cancer Cured My Broken Soul. The journal is Your Journey Begins Here.
Awesome.
It's
can't
guided.
wait to check it out.
Yeah. And then the online journaling group, as I mentioned, it's private. I want people to feel, really they want to be there. So they're going to make that effort to come.
Yeah.
And I can certainly send out invites to people too, if you just shoot me a note.
That's great.
And then you just participate. And I'm looking forward to growing that group and having people really engage in that, because this is for them.
Yeah.
I want to help anybody
You're
that
the
I
guide.
can. Yeah, absolutely. And I'll show up and I will give you prompts 4 or 5 times a week, or come up with different goals for you or something. And hopefully it's good motivation and something to keep that talk track positive.
Yes.
And healthy.
For sure.
And help you remember that you're enough.
Yeah, I love that. We'll end on that you are enough. I love that. Thank you so much for taking the time to share your story. And I can't wait for other people to check out these journals and these books and really kind of work on that own healing process. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Beth. It's
awesome.
my pleasure. And I really, really appreciate this.
Yes. Thank you so much.